few people, I think.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Oh, thank you, Anjali. Anjali beat me to it. I mean, I was about to find the Miro link and then. All right. Do you think that we should get started? Is there any request from people saying that, hey, my link doesn't work? Can I get started, or do we need to wait for a couple more minutes? We can start. Okay. All right. I guess Erica, whoever is not on video, please make sure that you come back on video. That'll be great. As long as you don't eat double chocolate cake and show it to the camera, I'm okay with that. Anything else you want to eat, that's totally fine. Because you'll be distracting me to go to the fridge now to do that. So that's my rule is, as long as you don't do that, you're okay. So
I'm sorry, I just went straight off of work to get on here.
Yeah, right. It's kind of challenging sometimes, especially when you even have to drive and come back. That's even a bigger thing. But welcome back to day number 3 or evening number 3, whatever it is for you, right? Like Devin mentioned, it's kind of sad that, you go through these moments of like, we spend a lot of time together. We discuss so many things about Scrum, and it's like, oh, you know what, I wish I had more information or more things that I'd like to learn. But I think, you're going to be doing that on your own going forward. And maybe, if you're interested in doing some other certifications, just, look into those things and let me know if you want to run anything by me. I'll be able to help you answer any questions that you may have around that. But before we get started, let's take a look at the retrospective from yesterday and day 2 retrospective. We said that there's good interaction in breakout rooms, good content. The time in the breakout sessions was perfect. Learning about the backlog, group role play. I think the simulation that we did yesterday, group work and Scrum and breakouts, breakout rooms and trailing theory in simple sample case. Scrum role play is good to practice to apply what we learned, elicited a lot of questions regarding theory. Yes, I think it prompted us to talk about a lot of things. Breakout rooms, some Scrum exercise is good. Somebody mentioned class. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Class breakout rooms were very engaging, really help put things into perspective. I like the usage of visuals and the different simulations, good participation from the group work, simulating Scrum, you learn by doing, valuable discussions. The PowerPoint slides are easy, really easy to understand and provide useful visual aid. And role play allows real life examples. Totally agree with that. Oh, there's a few more here. Being able to work with team members to apply the theory we have been taught, good duration, group discussions, course objective well defined, work in group on concrete project, practical backlog refinement and sprint planning. The diagrams and pictures you provide are great resources. And sprint planning and backlog refinements were very helpful, and team planning was really great. Awesome. So I think the simulation was something that everyone enjoyed or liked doing. So I'm glad that you were able to do Scrum by actually learning and in the classroom. So let's see if there's any other things that can be done today to improve our experience. Have an intro time with new teams as they were different from the previous day. Well, I guess it's already done. But in my opinion, we are all one team. We already introduced people once, and I think that might just eat away some time from the discussion that we're going to have. So I think we didn't really do that. I normally don't do that because we are all interacting with each other. I think that first part of it is done, so we left it alone. More group participation. I'm still getting used to Miro and only working in one screen, which is painful going back and forth. My problem though. Perhaps recommend a setup that is suited in the course outline. I could have organized a second screen ahead of time. Go through a real world example before doing exercises to know what exactly we need to do. ask more questions, more real world examples +1. Sometimes rules feel too strict, idealized, and not applicable for real world. Again, I think, it's all, uh, if you're talking about the rules of the game or the rules of Scrum, I have to make sure that I teach Scrum the right way. If I bend the rules and start teaching Scrum, according to your way, or what you're thinking that, it's not really applicable in the world. Who does this in the real world? Who does, these kinds of things will get you into suboptimal situations. And I don't want you to get into suboptimal situations. It's up to you how you assimilate this information and go back and implement it in your organization. But my job is to make sure that I teach it the right way. If you learn it the wrong way, you're going to do it even wrong, in your own organization. And everybody has their own flavors and certain things that they think that it is correct. And, that's far from the truth. So, obviously I'm not going to do that. And also one piece of advice, while you're taking the test, do not answer the questions based on your experience in your organization. Do not say, well, I think, we do it in my organization this way, so it's going to be the correct answer. No. So make sure that you use only the information that is taught to you from, if you want to pass the test, use the information that we have shared, rather than, coming up with something that you may have learned it in your organization. Sometimes you may have to unlearn a lot of things, and it's very easy to go back to bad habits. And I don't want you to form bad habits of learning Scrum. So I think, hence, call me a strickler being on Scrum, but I'm not Scrum police. I'm not a Scrum mom. I would like to be a Scrum mother-in-law, not a mom, because that I think moms are really good at that, right? Okay, just do it, honey, do it, honey. So I think you have to find a good balance being a Scrum master, when to step in, when to step back. Coaching in breakouts, if you round robin attending our sessions, you could help steer for more learning. Yes, that's a good idea. Some more real world examples. Longer in the sessions always takes a while to get started. Our knowledge give some more time for answering. I think instead of saying yes, yes, yes quickly, maybe more emphasis on flow, help draw a picture of start to end process. Using an example of for all of us to take through the sprint planning could be beneficial, as we could learn from each other's ideas. I thought that we did that yesterday, right? From a simulation point of view, we probably have done that. Discuss case studies. Make class 4 days. It's a lot of information to cover. Yes, I think it's not in my hands to make those kinds of decisions. I think it's 3 days. That's fine. 4 days would be good, but I think normally we do 2-day classes. There's some reasoning behind that people say that you're able to learn more with a continuous learning opportunity for you to do that. But I think the 3-day thing is working out okay, but making it 4 days, maybe timing wise it might work, but I'm not really sure about that. Maybe I have to experiment with that and see how that works out. But that's a great idea though. Awesome. Anything else? Continue doing what we have done yesterday and the day before. Yes, give me a thumbs up if you like that. Okay. And like I said, what we have covered a lot of ground since the last 2 days, and there's a few more topics that we need to cover to complete all the learning objectives so that you qualify to take the test. And we might, do a few more, activities like maybe open-ended questions like open Q&A, and also maybe do some scenario-based questions like scenarios to present and how you would solve them in the real world. And those kinds of things might help. And we'll also talk about the test. We'll also do some, if you want to do some networking and such, we can do that as well, so that we can benefit from each other and help each other out in case if you want to. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. What did we learn so far? I think, just to kind of review what we have done so far, maybe a good idea. We talked about the challenges of working in a waterfall environment. And we said that, all the things that you mentioned, it's like communication gaps. When you get to the finish line, the customer says, this is not what I wanted. All the things that, the challenges that you faced in your real life and we were able to relate to. we shared that information, and we said that Scrum is a framework that allows people to solve complex problems. We also looked at the Kinavan model to understand the complexity of the work, and we also talked about Scrum being a framework, and it is intentionally incomplete. It provides you the guidelines and the guardrails, but it does not give you step-by-step instructions as to what to do. If your management, if your transformation, in the organization, all of these things are happening, you just have to make decisions and learn from your experience, because Scrum is founded on empiricism. Empiricism has three pillars: transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Transparency of the artifacts, right? In Scrum, we have these three artifacts called product backlog, sprint backlog, and the increment. And they have these commitments. Product backlog has a product goal, sprint backlog has a sprint goal, and increment has a definition of done. So that transparency, all the people who are doing the work and people who are receiving the work must be transparent about these artifacts. That leads to, or that enables to inspection. Inspection enables adaptation. The moment you find out something is new that is found out, you pivot, you adjust your path to move forward in that direction. So that's what the Scrum framework is all about. And we also talked about product planning in Scrum is going to be different. We talked about define versus an empirical approach, pancake versus cure for cancer. What are the differences? We also talked about product planning is different in an empirical environment. The traditional triangle of scope, cost, and schedule are inverted so that the cost and schedule are fixed, and the features that you're going to deliver are going to be estimated. And that's what we learned about this Scrum theory. We also talked about the values of Scrum before we actually even started talking about Agile, the Agile Manifesto, the values of Agile, and the 12 principles that supported the Agile Manifesto. And you did a lot of discussions around that area. And finally, we said that Scrum has these 5 values: courage, focus, openness, respect, and commitment. And that leads to trust, or trusting your team members. When trust is developed, the 3 pillars of empiricism, transparency, inspection, and adaptation comes to life. We talked about Scrum having 3 accountabilities and responsibilities, where the product owner is responsible for the product, like the steerer of the car or the driver of a car, and Scrum Master is like the person who is like the oil in the engine. And we said that the Scrum Master is responsible for the framework, efficiencies, etc. And the developers are the people who are doing the work. Developers do not have any no sub teams, no hierarchy. Everyone is equal from their own accountabilities perspective. But you might still have your managers or people who report to outside. That's nothing to do with Scrum, but it's just your own corporate the way that you work within your organization, and that's okay. As long as you do not have that hierarchical structure on a Scrum team, then I think you'll be able to self-manage and become cross-functional. We talked about that, and we also talked about the day in the life of a Scrum Master. Lots of different things that the Scrum Master does. Then we also talked about the core competencies of a Scrum Master: coaching, teaching, facilitating, mentoring. And then we talked about the services to the organization by the Scrum Master, service to the product owner, service to the developers, and we talked about technical debt. We talked about servant leadership. We talked about a lot of those concepts as we went through the services. And also I provided you a Scrum Master checklist.org, where you can learn more about what does a Scrum Master do, how do they serve the needs of all of these 3. We also talked about the events in Scrum at a very high level. We talked about the 5 events. Sprint itself is an event, which is a container event, which is the heart of the Scrum. And we also talked about sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, sprint retrospective, that provides you the cadence and that provides you the opportunities to inspect and adapt. So you're constantly inspecting and adapting something. And that's the whole purpose of the Scrum framework, because you don't know what you don't know. The solution evolves as you work through. And that's the way we operate our work in Scrum. We also did a simulation. We came up with our own product ideas. You had your Scrum Master, product owner, and developers as a role play. But for all intents and purposes, we were all working together as a team just to understand, how we create a product backlog. You formed a team, you created a product backlog, you worked together as a team to estimate your product backlog items or size your product backlog items, which we also did an activity while we were discussing the product backlog and product backlog refinement, ordering of the product backlog, content, and also the clarity of the product backlog is something that the product owner owns, and the developers help the product owner estimate or size the work because they are the ones who are doing the work. And the Scrum Master may facilitate all of these conversations. Facilis, like we said in Latin, means to make something easier or possible. Product owner is focused on all the things that, from a product perspective. Product owner, that's what we said. And then we also talked about sprint planning. You simulated the sprint planning. We talked about the three topics that are discussed during sprint planning. Why is the sprint valuable? What are we going to get done during the sprint? How are we going to get the chosen work accomplished? And those leads to the sprint backlog, creation of the sprint backlog. Sprint backlog has these product backlog items that are selected from the product backlog into the sprint backlog. It has a plan as to how to deliver that value or the increment that you're going to build. And it also has a clear, specific sprint goal, cohesive sprint goal that lets you start thinking about how to build this product and progressively start working on delivering product increments to your customers and the clients that you're working for. Then finally, there's only these three topics that are left for us to think about inspection and adaptation, which is the daily scrum, the sprint review, and the sprint retrospective. So just to kind of give you an idea on the sprint retrospect, sprint daily scrum, the daily scrum is an opportunity for the scrum team members to kind of sync up with each other to figure out how they are trending towards the completion of that goal. How are they doing? It's all about like situational awareness. Where are we in terms of our goal? Like my metaphor that I'd like to use here is a car drive, right? If let's say you're driving on a highway. If you're driving on a highway and you look in the rearview mirror, you know how far of a distance you have traveled. If you look in front of you, you know how much of a distance you need to travel to get to your destination. So all of these, essentially, help us to figure out where we are in terms of our accomplishment of the goal. And if we need to pivot, we will adjust it and we'll go through that. But how many of you have been in status meetings? Okay, status meetings are regularly done for other people. Maybe a manager or somebody else does leads that discussion. But in Scrum, it's a self-managing team. So which means that it's for the developers and by the developers. And the developers tend to conduct the daily Scrum and try to adapt. They want to inspect the progress towards the sprint goal and adapt the sprint backlog as necessary, adjusting the upcoming planned work. The example of those three questions: what did I do yesterday to meet my sprint goal? What am I going to do today to meet my sprint goal? Do I see any impediments in my way to meet my sprint goal? Is just one example of conducting a daily Scrum. It could be based on however you want to structure it. As long as you focus on the sprint goal, you're welcome to do that however you want it. So that's the idea. It's about mutual accountability, self-management. Emphasis is on the inspection and adaptation mechanism here. But there's a few constraints also from a daily Scrum perspective. And I will let you have a discussion with your team. We're going to form some new teams. Again, I'm going to just let Miro do that for us, Zoom do that for us. And this way, you will also get different perspectives today. But I forgot to ask about the breaks today. Should we continue doing what we did yesterday? Or, we are way far ahead of, what we have been doing.
Yes.
So let's do the same thing like yesterday. Either way,
that was a great idea.
Okay. All right, let's do that. And who knows, in case if we are done a little bit earlier, I think, that'll be a bonus for us, but we'll see how.
Celebration.
Yeah, celebration. Awesome. Okay,
Question.
so, yes,
For these flip charts that you have, are these located in Miro on the Miro?
they are on the Miro board as well as in the Google Drive. I actually put together a PDF of all the documentation, all the content that I have on the Miro board, and also a lot more on the Google Drive. Additional examples, additional scenarios are also there.
What is it? What is it list? That's okay. I'll go look at it. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I just wanted to go back and look at these. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's do an activity on the daily scrum. And the daily scrum, the questions on the daily scrum are just kind of talk about what happens during the daily scrum, and also discuss the differences between a daily scrum and a status meeting. Obviously, there's no status meetings in Scrum. And also talk about the various constraints, like why is it 15 minutes maximum? Why can't we do more than 15 minutes? Which happens at the same time, same place. Also, only people doing the work speak. Who are doing the work? The developers. Why can't the Scrum Master and the product owner not speak? And it's not for problem solving. So these are the various constraints. Have a discussion with your team. And when you come back, we'll share that information with the rest of us. And I am going to just use the breakout rooms and form 3 teams again. Any questions on this before we go to our team room? Good? Okay. 10 minutes for this activity.
Hey everyone.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
So daily scrum in one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what is the difference between daily scrum and the status meeting? Daily scrum is about updating the team, like what we have done yesterday, what we are going to do today, and any difficulties doing that or not. That is what my understanding.
Correct. And based on the status meeting, just as a generic meeting that serves the purpose of providing updates on various projects or topics.
Yeah, anyone who would like to update the board?
Also, I want to state that Scrum meetings have like a maximum time built around them, mainly so people can get back to being productive, since there's no work being done while everybody's just discussing.
Okay, I'm
Scrums.
updating the board. Sorry. Scrum meeting is 15 minutes compulsory, while status meeting can be any time duration, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make sure to not write the Scrum meeting, but daily Scrum. I think he's picky with words.
Okay. Yeah. Good point. Okay. What is the second point we can add?
And just developers just updates their work basically. What they have to do.
Can you just put the DS daily scrum is about what is done yesterday?
And do we also talk about the status meeting too?
Yes.
Yeah, it says discuss the difference between the
I
daily
mean,
Scrum and status.
I feel like isn't that status meeting like it can be done through online, right? Like a video chat or Zoom, like for example.
Scrum Daily Scrum can as well.
Daily
Yeah,
Scrum can?
daily
Okay,
scrum
okay.
can as well, because now the team is all over, so
Yeah.
daily scrum can.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it does say, I guess the widest various constraints are like 15-minute time boxing, same time, same place. So I think it does still have to be carried in the same place, maybe just not in person.
Is Omar in our team? Is he updating?
Yeah, I'm trying to answer the second question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What team are we?
And what is the second question?
Oh,
Why
we're
the
team one,
various-
team one.
The second question is why is it important to have 15-minute max?
Same time, same place?
Yeah, well-
Right, because
well-
of the focus and efficiency.
Yeah. Putting more time towards delivering
Yeah.
and value rather than
Fixing any
talking.
impediments.
Yeah.
Also,
Maybe also not only what did they do yesterday, but also what did they do today? As in, often the daily scrum are around like noon or before the lunch break, so they're expecting you to say what you're gonna do in the afternoon as well.
yeah.
So it's a 3 question, what you have done yesterday, what you are going to do today, and what you, any problem, what you are working on or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anybody have any ideas of why
Why
it's
it
only?
is Starbucks? I think, just to stay on point, I'll say, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know who said it, but he said like to just be focused and concise and not to
Yeah.
waste time. I don't know who said it, but
What was you saying, Devin?
I was saying, anybody have any ideas of why it's only people speak that's actually doing the work?
Feel like they got more knowledge about it.
Yeah, maybe the Scrum Master is not as
I hope it makes sense.
You said, what was that?
I hope what I wrote makes sense. Reasons for 15 minutes max is to be focused and be efficient and also fix impediments they're facing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
It's on efficiency, you know. Did we discuss the difference between the status and the Scrum Master?
Yes, we did discuss it.
That's like a main difference.
and like I think the last question you said is like, if I read this, like why is it only
The
right?
main difference could be one of them, the daily scrum or daily scrum or daily stand-ups. They're specific to the agile framework. A status meeting can go with any framework or any line of business, whether it's agile or waterfall. But
That's a good
daily
point.
stand-ups and
We should write that down.
I would say a lot of stuff we discussed, we're not right. And I agree with that. Like with Scrum, you still have to like follow those 3 questions. And that's mainly the talking point.
Also, I don't think it's meant to be daily. The status meeting.
True, yeah.
Or-
That for daily, because it creates the discipline within the team. That same time, same thing is creates a discipline.
No, I mean for a status meeting, there is a difference.
For productivity, yeah.
And to why it is 15 minutes, it is brief, focus, and be on topic. Nobody will do any extra discussion on that.
Mm-hmm.
15-minute limit have helped maintain the team's productivity and collaboration. Yeah.
We got, I think that's good for now. I just want to get let's get the last 2 things down. Not for problem solving. Why is a daily scrum not for problem solving?
We can add Scrum is for the developers
Yeah.
And
and
developer.
by the developers.
Yeah.
Mm, Do we have everything tackled as far as for question number 2? For those last 2 things, the only people doing the work speak and not for problem solving.
Only people speaking will be developers, right?
Well, sure, but it's more so like why the various constraints, like why is that a constraint that only people that are doing the work can speak? I would say it's more so for staying
Okay,
focused as
highlighting the
well.
problem solving part
Okay,
in
yeah.
that.
And transparency too.
Transparency. Also, how about because I guess like yesterday he mentioned like scrums are supposed to like be listeners first. So technically it's like if we're not doing the work, then we should also be listening to what work is being done so we can facilitate better and coach and mentor better. But you gotta listen first.
You know,
Yeah.
So a lot of people like listen into this daily scrum, but not actually, talk.
Agree.
I think we are good.
All right, welcome back, welcome back. Let's go to team 1. Team 1, can you please summarize your discussion?
Okay, what we found is that for the scrum, the daily scrum is a 15 minutes while status meeting cannot be in a box time. And it's a brief focus and daily scrum is a 15 minutes while status meetings cannot be a box time. The daily status is about what is done yesterday and what can be done today and any impediments. Scrum is for the developers and by the developers. And there's a focus on efficiency and accountability. And the reasons for the 15-minute max is so that it is to be focused and be efficient and also fixing impediments that they are facing. It's a brief focus to be on topic for problem solving.
I mean, it's not exactly problem solving done during the daily scrum, but it is after the daily scrum is done.
Yeah, that would be like if when blockers are brought up, then that can be a parking lot item to be discussed at a later time.
Correct. Yeah, because the focus is more on identifying those impediments, but then the actual solving can be done afterwards as the team feels necessary. Yeah. All right, awesome. Team 2, do you want to add anything?
So I volunteered to talk, but I don't know what team I was in. Was that team 2?
Yeah.
Can someone tell me?
Yeah, we were in team 2.
Yeah, cool. Okay. So I didn't see what was written on the little thingies. But just our discussion was kind of, the daily scrum just being about, obviously what we did yesterday, what we did today, or what we're doing today, short and sharp updates, delivered by the developers or the people that are working in the project. The main part of our discussion was kind of around the sports analogy. So thinking through different types of sports to get our head around what exactly is the difference between the Scrum daily and like a status meeting. So what we kind of spoke about is if you know anything about rugby,
The players are on the field by themselves. They're going to try different strategies. If that doesn't work, they're going to regroup and come into the middle, which is like the scrum. And then they're going to talk about a different strategy, and then they're going to go out and do it and execute that play in the next sprint. Another analogy was kind of like the basketball analogy, where we thought that is more like a status meeting where the coach calls the timeout. If he sees something, he brings everyone in. He's going to bark instructions to the players and then send them out on their way to do it. So we kind of looked at the two sports a little bit differently to try and grasp the two different concepts.
Excellent. I think, I love this analogy because, I always only used either rugby analogy, but I could never relate the status meetings to something else. But I think, now I'm going to, I think I'm going to steal that idea. I mean, I shouldn't be.
You can take that. And
yeah.
Group 2 won't take any royalties for that.
But I'm paying too
We'll
much.
trade it off for the free breaks.
My son takes this royalty for using his illustration. Now you guys want this. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
$1 million.
You can use that.
All right, we'll see. $1 million it'll cost. I mean, you're discouraging me from buying this idea now. All right, great. Thank you for that, Ben and team 2. Team 3, I want to see if you have anything that you want to share. Anything different? Anything?
I think this is actually supposed to be team 1. There is an accidental swap where team 3 representatives spoke.
Oh, really?
First.
Okay. So yours is the opposite, the other side?
Oh, I thought we were team 1. I'm sorry.
That is called stealing, not mine, No, just kidding, just kidding.
Sorry about that. I thought I was still in team 1.
So the content was for the team 1, but the speaker was from the team 3.
That's okay. Don't worry. I think, I think we have got enough information. Anything else anyone wants to share from about the daily scrum? Or any questions about the daily scrum? You good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that is about the daily scrum. So every day the daily scrum happens for 15 minutes, but sometimes it can be done earlier if the purpose of if the purpose of any of these events is met, the team can say, well, I think, we're done. There's no reason for them to hang around and say, hey, you know what, it's 15 minutes. So let me just make sure I look at the clock, and only once after the 15 minutes is done, I need to leave. No, it's all about that the team needs to stay focused and then avoid any kind of overages or wastages of any kind. Now, every day the team starts doing the work, they find impediments, they look at the goal, they complete certain features, all of these things are happening. And typically on the last day, what happens is you'll have a second to the last event called this sprint review. Sprint review is for the team to inspect the outcome of the sprint and determine future adaptations. So this was the outcome of the sprint. This is what was delivered. These are the challenges that we have had. It's not just only about random things, but demonstrating the working product increment. We have delivered this to the customer. Do you like it? And then talk about other things, not just only about the demonstration of the work. So make it a working session. Don't limit it to a presentation. An example of this is one time I was actually working with a team, and the team started presenting a PowerPoint presentation that was 52 slides long. And then I asked them out of curiosity, hey, how long did it take for you to present this information? They said, well, we have a PowerPoint expert. It actually took us only 12 hours to put this together. Not a whole lot of time. Well, that's a lot of time, right? That was wasted. So they put together graphs. This is what it does. Let them touch and feel the product rather than putting everything as on your PowerPoint presentation. So make it a working session and review what was changed during the sprint, what changed in your environment, collaborate on what to do next, Those are all the things that you want to look at. So don't limit it to a presentation, but opportunities on what to do, market situation, potential use of the product, all of these things, that can benefit and provide you additional feedback and things of that nature. One of the things that I remember, I actually was working for an airline company, and the airline company had this booking section on the home page on the left hand side, and then they also had a reward section on the right hand side. Now, one of the sprint reviews, there was a market analyst and a psychologist who showed up at this sprint review. Well, we were kind of surprised that, why are they here? So the market analyst kind of shared the information saying that, we have been seeing a lot of trends where many users are clicking on the left-hand side where they're actually not buying any tickets, but then they're just kind of looking at their rewards. And this happened only in some parts of the world where the language is written from right to left. Unlike English you write from left to right, but some languages are written from right to left. And they said, hey, those market segments, we found out that they are clicking more on the rewards, but they're not making many bookings. Then we said, well, what do we need to do about it? Well, the psychologist mentioned that the human brain is something where wherever you start your writing from, the focus starts from there. So maybe they are focused more on the right-hand side of the page, which is the reward section, rather than the booking section. It ended up being like one of the developers was paying very good attention on this, and they said, hey, you know what? I have an idea. Does it work if I actually swap these two pages? Wherever the language is written from right to left, I can actually put the booking section on the right-hand side to see if that will help. And they said, oh, really? And we said, yes, but we're all going to look at it, figure out, and then maybe take this feedback into consideration to start working in the upcoming sprints after we discuss with the product owner. And it all worked out really well. After maybe 3 or 4 sprints, that was delivered with the functionality, and they felt really good about it because they saw significant improvement in terms of the number of clicks on the booking section soon after that. So it's all about the feedback. See, you're getting that live interaction with your customers, stakeholders, sponsors. Unlike in traditional project management, when do you meet them? You see them after 18 months, sometimes 24 months. So long, very long, and then, the market conditions have changed. But in Scrum, we have the opportunity to do it every sprint. At the end of every sprint, you're doing a sprint review. So focus more on those outcomes. The feedback loops are incorporated for you. So you have this opportunity to inspect and adapt. You're inspecting the outcome of the sprint and adapting the product backlog as necessary based on the feedback that you received. So that is the sprint review. Any questions before we do this activity on sprint review? Okay, so I want you to have a discussion based on your own experiences as well as maybe some of the discussion that we just had. What are some of the other activities that happen beyond the demo of an increment and also potential outcomes of a sprint review? What are some of the outcomes of a sprint review? So not just don't limit it to this, but any other discussion that you may have, just please feel free to share that information. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to give you another 10 minutes for this discussion.
Hello.
Hey everyone. So when he's got what other activities happen beyond a demo of the increment, is that after the demo? Or do you know? Or
So
is it?
part of the sprint review, the whatever work is done, the demo, whatever is done, and then the discussion happens. Any other discussions regarding that sprint can also happen, like the discuss the what done during that sprint. Is anyone would like to update the board?
Are we not all able to throw ideas on the board? Instead of it being a single person?
Informal meeting. To show the work. Okay. Then. Yeah, I think Karthikeyan is trying. You can update Karthikeyan.
Okay.
It happens end of the sprint, end of the each sprint.
That's not really the question though, is it? Or am I misreading it? Or if we're looking at question 1.
No, you're right. I think apart from the demo, like one thing really like the feedback from the team, but compare
Yeah.
again.
That is the retrospective. This is the like product based thing we are checking in the sprint review. What we did done as a like to achieve the product goal, not the process goal. So like sprint review is focused on the product, not the process. Retrospective is the focus on the process.
Then the feedback from the stakeholders that actually looking at the demos. It's something that happened because like they
Yes,
should
that is the
be-
product feedback, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the sprint product feedback.
Are we talking about the review?
Mhm.
Yes.
Review? In the sprint review, there's like feedbacks and validations.
Can you enlarge the sticky, Karthikeyan?
Yep.
Yeah, good. We can add one more.
Three
What else?
potential.
The potential outcomes of the sprint review.
Demonstration of progress.
That is the demo. Stakeholders feedback, yeah, that's the one.
How about the acceptance of the increment or rejection of the increment?
Yes,
When the
as we are demoing, we can get the feedback and they might have reject also.
rejection and the acceptance, yeah.
But then there would be adaptation. Then if
That
there
will be
is,
reviewed.
then we fall into like inspection and adaptation, I believe.
Yeah.
And upcoming backlog stories based on the review, correct?
And team can discuss about the goal of that sprint and working towards the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what do you mean? Like the next steps, basically, of after these Pringles? I think that's something that they would talk about as well. Like what has been done and like and what's missing and what's
Testing. Testing of quality assurance.
This thing happens simultaneously.
in the demo.
This is sprint review meeting. Right? Sprint. Whatever is done in that sprint can be reviewed.
I feel like also for the second question, I feel like a result of the sprint is like product backlog. I think that's what it's called.
Yes, yes. Revise the product backlog and priorities.
Yup. So that's one of them. Do you got any?
Yes.
So you're saying after the sprint review, you then refine the product backlog.
Planning.
I would say there would be planning for a next sprint if whatever is on the sprint is already done.
Yeah, that's the revision of the product backlog, what can be done next. And that is also written from like action items and follow-ups.
Is it a sprint like the time and everything? From like it could take up to like 15 to 1 month, right? 15 days to 1 month. Or is
Sorry?
that- I said, isn't it the sprint like referred to as like the time the project and everything is due?
I'm confused. So once one sprint is ending, immediately the new sprint starts.
Oh, okay.
Suppose it's end yesterday was the last day for the sprints, today is the first day of the next sprint.
Yeah, there's no pauses in sprints.
You can have either 1 full month or 2 full weeks.
Yes.
Yep. Yep, and the sprint is going to start immediately, like it's just immediately once you start the project, you're in your sprints, going one sprint to the next.
Nice.
Until you deliver the final product.
Yep.
I thought a sprint could be as long as you wanted. Like if you wanted to have one as 4 days or a week, you could. Like it's, just not common. But yeah.
Yeah, I believe that's true. I think there's just a standard of time, but I don't think it's constraint to it. It's just like the whole 15-minute meeting thing. It's like I think 8 hours per month. We're gonna have like your daily scrum. It's like an average of 8 hours per 30 days or something like that. So like there's just some standardized time to make sure you're focusing on productivity.
This is, I think, informal meeting to show the work, and product owner and scrum master should be present in this meeting.
Yeah, and also remember, because they want the transparency and they want like the feedback. So you kind of have to have sprints at a shorter amount of time, so you make sure like you're not going half a year and they're like, you don't want the product owners to be asking like, well, what's the update? What are you guys doing? Like, so you want that every 2 weeks or whatever to give updates with
Everybody's in the loop.
Yeah, keep everybody in the loop with the transparency and consistency.
I agree 100%. I think we're good now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right, guys.
Okay, so let's go to team 3. Team 3, can you please summarize your discussion for us?
Sure. For what other activities can happen beyond the demo of an increment? We had, any changes to the backlog that can happen, and providing and recording feedback on the working product. Items we should add or remove from the backlog at hand, and dev input on what they might think can be done next. And then some outcomes of the sprint review was like if the sprint goal was like achieved or not, or was the increment accepted or rejected by the product owner.
Yeah, excellent. I think, that's a great summary. We are talking more about transparency, right? Did we accomplish the sprint goal or not? How many of the product backlog items we thought that we would complete or completed? What was not completed? so that it's all in transparency. Having that discussion is very important, so that this stakeholders will have that trust that is necessary for us to move forward with our product development. So yes, absolutely. Thank you for that, Salman and Team 3. Team 2, what do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so what we spoke about was we kind of gave examples about like an Apple Watch for when it came to the activities beyond a demo increment. So we talked about it's kind of like a continuous feedback loop of during the sprint, when it's reviewed, it's submitted to the stakeholders. And for example, like let's say it's a wristband. If after 4 hours, a piece of paper is presented with the drawing of the wristband, and the stakeholders say, okay, yeah, I like this. Can you make it a little longer? Can you make a different material? And it goes back to the sprint. And then after another, let's say a month, it's 3D printed or it's fabricated with plastic, sent back through the sprint review. Stakeholders are saying, okay, I like this. Kind of hurts my wrist a little bit. Can you make a little more holes? Can you change the design a little bit? Okay. So it goes back to the sprint, and it's a continual change of going back, being iterative and incremental until the product is finally, yes, this is exactly what I want. It's the wristband's perfect. The tablet that goes on your wrist is perfect. Everything's perfect. And that's the end of it. That's the overall goal of the sprint. So those are the activities that could happen. And the 3 potential outcomes are 3 things we talked about, kind of tying it back to a game of rugby, because this is where Scrum comes from. It said you either win your game, you lose the game, or it's tie. So we said that once a sprint review happens, when they look at let's say the Apple Watch, they refine it. They say, well, I don't actually like this about it. Can you alter that? Say, I don't like it. Second thing is, this is perfect. Keep going forward with it. The third thing is, they're kind of in the middle. They're kind of, kind of change everything. This is not kind of what we thought, kind of started all over.
Yeah, I think, it's one of those things where sometimes, there will be discussions around like, when the tying part of it, right? What you mentioned, we are tied, which means, status quo, move forward. But in some situations, we may have to stop the stop working on the product, because we are done. We are sunsetting the product. I mean, typically that doesn't happen overnight. You probably will have an idea, but that's a possibility, right? That's just an additional outcome that can happen, and that may be one of those things that you brought out from a metaphor point of view too, from a Scrum perspective.
Yeah, and if it's all right, one more thing I wanted to add was that a direct example of this is if you go on websites called Kickstarter or Indiegogo, that's where products are publicly funded to start. And then, like you said, it happens a lot where they're going through the refinement, they're taking customer feedback, and sometimes the product gets funding, but it just halts, or they have to give up because it doesn't just function.
Right. Yeah, put a hold on it. We'll do it later. We'll never do it again, or whatever is the decision, right? Just putting a hold on that, or not progressing, moving forward with that. All right, awesome. Thanks for that, Michael and Team 2. Team 1, do you want to add anything else? No, we have covered everything. Yeah, awesome. All right, so I think that's about.
I want to add one thing. The sprint review is more about the product. It focuses on how much we develop, like how much is done, and we end of the during the sprint review we revise the backlog also.
Right. Yeah, because anytime you get that feedback, we revise the product backlog, because that's a big outcome of that. But yes, definitely that can happen. Yes, Fabio?
I was wondering about the overlap between sprint review and sprint planning, because logically they seem to happen quite close to each other, like sprint reviews at the end of the sprint and then sprint planning at the beginning. So I wonder, is there any overlap between the two?
There's no overlap. The sprint review is for planning for the sprint as to how much we're going to accomplish. Sprint review sprint planning is more about the planning for the sprint and, what is our goal. But sprint review is what was accomplished during the sprint. And the discussion is surrounding around, whether you like it, all the feedback and everything that is received. So the audience is also different, right? For example, sprint planning, the audience is only the Scrum team looking at certain things and maybe any subject matter experts who can help the Scrum team with any decisions. But the sprint review is more about the Scrum team and the sponsors and stakeholders and users and whoever is interested in finding out more about like the outcome of the sprint are involved in that. So I don't see any overlap per se because there are different purposes for each of those and different audiences as well. Yeah. All right. Awesome. All right. So let's, I guess, take our 8-minute break at this point of time. Yeah. Okay. So let's do that. I'll see you in 8.
See you in 8.
All right, welcome back, welcome back. So right before the break, we were talking about the daily scrum and the sprint review. And once the sprint review is conducted, the team meets for a private event for the scrum team called the sprint retrospective. The sprint retrospective is also another inspect and adapt mechanism, which provides you an opportunity for the scrum team to inspect itself and identify a plan for improvements to be enacted in the upcoming sprints. We're trying to figure out, how did we do during the sprint? From a people, tools, individuals, definition of done, processes. From this perspective, how did we do? Well, based on that, we are going to identify areas of improvement. Well, an example could be, how can we do a better job of product backlog refinement? Well, maybe we should ask clarifying questions. Maybe we should focus more on sizing the product backlog items. Maybe everyone needs to be engaged and providing their input. Whatever is necessary, those individual areas of improvements should be identified. And because we can't really boil the ocean, we have to get the most bang for your buck on the most important items that you as a team feels that we need to focus on to make any improvements in the future sprints, because we're already done with our sprint now, but in the future, how can we become better individuals or a better team? So it's all about planning ways to increase the quality and effectiveness of the team. The sprint review is about the quality and effectiveness of the product increment, because it's about the product. This is more about your quality and effectiveness of the team itself. So there's many effective ways of conducting a retrospective. There's 3 common elements to a retrospective, and that is about how was our work completed? How was our work completed from an individual's interactions, processes, and tools, and also definition of done. Remember, the definition of done is an ongoing improvement that we need to make as we find more areas of improvement, more stringent quality criteria. All of those things need to be added. But it's a collaborative discussion for the team to identify and order these improvements. Again, ordering the improvements is not about like something for you to order to tell them what to do, but it's about sequentially ordering it. If you find 20 areas of improvement, you can't be boiling that ocean. So you have to look at maybe 1 or 2 items that give you the most bang for your buck. Sometimes people do dot voting. They are given a bunch of dots and you vote for it. And whichever one gets the most votes, well, let's just work together on this one going forward. So this is how you identify those areas of improvement that will give us the most benefit, and then you create a plan. This plan could be as simple as we are going to do an improvement, or we need to do a better job of product backlog refinement. How you do that? You have a plan, you put that in there, and this can actually go in the next sprint backlog. You can automatically put it in the next sprint backlog because that is obviously you have already talked about this. So it can go in the sprint backlog. Esther Derby and Diana Larson in their Agile Retrospectives book, they talk about these 5 steps. Set the stage, gather data, generate insights, decide what to do, close the retrospective. Then also in the upcoming sprint, reiterate actions, follow up. So all of these 7 steps, you need to talk about, but these 5 steps are written by Esther Derby and Diana Larson. But I wanted to also mention that it's very important. Identifying all of these things are great, but then if you don't do anything about it, nothing's going to change. So you need to make sure you focus on reiterating those actions. Hey, have we done this? Next time when you're doing product backlog refinement, let's say the Scrum Master or anyone can bring it up saying, remember, we talked about making an improvement in this area. Are we doing that now? Right? We said that we are going to finish our daily Scrum within the 15 minutes. Why are we taking more than that? How can we be more efficient in this? So all of these things that you need to reiterate and follow up. One classic symptom of what I have seen in my experience, where you will see the same retrospective items come back over and over again. That's a symptom of where you're actually not doing anything about those improvements. The team is just going through the motions of, oh yeah, we need to do a better job of communicating with each other. We need to do a better job of collaborating with each other. We need to talk to each other more frequently. We need to make sure that we collaborate after the daily scrum. We need to make sure that we collaborate with our stakeholders frequently. Any of those things that you see over and over again, that means you're not doing a good job of reiterating actions or following up or doing anything serious to make those improvements. If you don't do anything, nothing's going to change. So that's why you need to be mutually accountable and stop bringing up these things during retrospectives to gather that. Now, set the stage. Scrum Master typically sets the stage. What does set the stage mean to you? Anyone?
I would say just being the first one to speak and set the meeting up. So just like basically approaching the team and setting the stage by talking about the criteria, things that they should be going over or we should be going over. But I would say for the most part, setting the stage is just being the first to show up and set the tone of the environment and what's expected of the meeting.
Okay, so pretty much like, talking about what's expected, ground rules. It's all about facilitation techniques to do that. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
All right, Anjali.
It also helps to do a super brief refresher of the major things that were achieved during that sprint. So you remember in the last 2 weeks, we delivered X, Y, Z. That helps put people in the right mindset to remember things that they probably have feedback on.
Okay. Yeah, that's a conversation starter, right? So that people can start thinking about we worked really hard during the sprint. What are all the things that we have done and any improvements that need to be happening on those? Acknowledge achievements of the sprint. Yes, we can definitely do that. Yes, Payal, what else?
I'm not sure about all organization, but normally the sprint retrospective outcome is noted and saved for the team review. Like whenever team wants to go back and check, but and that is shared among the team.
Yeah, but this is after the fact though, right? So yes, that's the outcome of this is a list of items that we can improve on, but setting the stage at the beginning of the retrospective. Yes, Arnold.
I think I agree with Devin. When I think of setting the stage, it talks more about what we talked earlier about being a servant leader. So being there to serve, being the coach, being the facilitator, like you said, being the mentor and all that.
Okay. What else can you do to set the stage? Means like, how will you help the team talk? Yes. How do I, Celine?
Yeah, that's fine. At my job, we do icebreakers. So we just put 2 to 3 minutes aside and just start the session with an icebreaker. It just lets people get a bit more kind of involved, let loose a little bit, and allows everybody to have a say, set the stage in more of a fun way rather than such a regimented meeting that becomes repetitive and boring.
Yeah. I mean, icebreakers are great. You want to start with that so that everyone feels comfortable and start doing that. Yes, that's great. Thank you for that. Kanisha?
One of the things that you can also do is to introduce yourself. Maybe give some years of experience in what you're doing so that they will know that they're working with experienced people know what they're doing. You could touch on maybe some fun facts about yourself. And you could also motivate the team and let them know that we can do this. We got this, we can do it, and just let them know that you're there to support them and anything that they need, you are always there for them. That will make the group warm up to the leader and want to be enthused about working with that person.
Okay. I think, these are all great answers. Thank you for that. I'm also looking for something very specific here. So let me rephrase the question in a different way and ask that question. How would you ensure that everybody on the Scrum team is is participating in the retrospective? Yes, tell me.
A retro board on a Miro board, so it's collaborative.
Okay, but
And I
how,
can just stick it
how
out.
will they, how will you ensure that they will talk? Like, let's say I'm a very shy person. I don't want to be talking. So what would you do as a Scrum Master to make sure that they speak? Michael? Pass the baton.
One thing I used to do when I was in high school was we used to sit the chairs all in a circle. And I would explain that, when King Arthur was ruler of England, he made sure that he sat around tables so that nobody was better than another person, that everyone had equal say.
Awesome, awesome. I think we are getting there. Fabio?
We use sticky notes to write stuff on. So you don't actually have to speak that much. You can just write it on. And afterwards, we vote on items, put like dots on the sticky notes. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of anonymous retrospectives. I mean, I guess, it might work in the beginning, but why anonymous, right? Transparency is a big thing. It goes out, if you say anonymous, that means that people can be, oh, you know what? I'm shy. I don't want to be speaking. I want to hide this information, or I don't want them to know that I brought it up. That can happen, but why, make it transparent is my question. That's another way of doing it. But yes, you're right. Using sticky notes is definitely a great way of doing it.
I mean,
Yes,
you would know who put
Anjali?
the sticky notes up. Everyone is observing each other, so there's no way to get away with
Yeah.
anonymous.
I
things,
figured
but-
out your handwriting as well, right?
Yeah.
That's something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yes, Anjali?
There's a few things. So you can actually, Scrum Master can actually call on people to contribute if they haven't. Set the expectation to use the raise hand function or something else like that. So if one person is eating up a lot of time, they're at least aware of the queue that's around, and you kind of move things along. And the other thing I really like is upvotes. So everyone gets a number of voting chips or something. And so they can also contribute by putting those next to the items that matter most to them.
Yeah, definitely. These are all great ideas. Yes. Knisha.
I know this has nothing to do with being a Scrum Master, but when I was doing addiction and community service worker, I learned that people normally open up and speak when they feel like they're not being judged, or when they feel like they have the support of their the person who is in charge. So if as a Scrum Master, you could create an atmosphere of trust, and also you could create an atmosphere of letting person know that they are free to say whatever they have to say. They won't be judged and things like that. So that could help.
Bingo. That is the answer that I was looking for. So you are creating an atmosphere of psychological safety for people to speak up, right? If you don't do that, people will be like, oh, am I being judged? If I say this, will I be used against me at some point of time? I'm not sure if this information is being passed on to my manager. I'm not sure, if I say this, do I look stupid? I don't know how my team members are going to perceive me going forward. All of these things can happen in the people's minds, right? We have different personalities, and that's a feeling to have. Now, a good Scrum Master knows that these kinds of things can happen. So you create this psychological safety for making sure you call it out. Like not only calling out people, but calling out saying, hey, you know what? This information is something that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It's not going out anywhere. Plus, feel free to speak up. Your information is very, very important, because we need to share this information and become better individuals. Nobody is right, nobody is wrong. It's all about no judgment zone. Right? I think what is that? Planet Fitness? Somebody calls that, right? No judgment zone. So you probably want to use that kind of a mentality to make sure that people do that. And you know what? This is exactly what we have done in our classroom, right? All the ideas that you're mentioning about facilitation, Did we not create like the spokesperson rotation of the role? We did that. Now we said, well, if that doesn't work, then I'm going to create a wheel of fortune so that, I click on that and the person who didn't get a chance to speak will be able to speak. But you gain the trust, and then you see a lot more people opening up today, started to speak. And all of those things are absolutely natural for people to get comfortable. I think that you mentioned about trust. And once trust is developed, I think, people are good. And that's a great way of doing it. So icebreakers, fantastic. Writing it on sticky notes and then mixing it up. So one other thing that I've done is, I think it always helps to ensure that we mix it up and do different ways of conducting a retrospective. And that'll help a lot because people are engaged in certain things when you do certain things like games, when you do certain things like a different metaphor, when you use something, you can connect to these things and then you open up a lot more. So there's no one right way of doing it, but I think, there's a lot of great, fantastic ideas of conducting a retrospective, which we are going to talk about soon. But anyone else? I know that there were a couple of hands that were raised, but anyone else wants to talk about sprint retrospective? Anything you want to share? Anything that you really enjoyed from your experience, right? Hey, that was an approach that we took for a retrospective. Anything that you want to share? Any fun ideas? Okay. I think one of the things that really works for me is a very simple retrospective, like the one that we did in our classroom, right? We said, what are the things that you liked? What are the things that you liked about the sprint? What are the things that we can do to improve our experience in the next sprint? That could be a different way of conducting it. So one other thing is that I also gathered this plus, delta, and areas of improvement. What are the things that we did well? What are the gaps that we found during our sprint? And what are some of the areas that we can improve on and use this dart voting or vote up and all of those things like Anjali mentioned. So we can do these kinds of things so that we are all engaged and then start, working on that. Another thing that I've done is stop, start, continue. What are the things that we need to stop doing because this is useless? What are the things that we need to start doing so that we can benefit from these? And what are the things that really worked so far? So let's continue doing these things. So just different ways of gathering information. One time I actually played Chutes and Ladders game with my team. Chutes and Ladders is I think in some parts of the world it's called Snakes and Ladders. But the game is played like, where you get a ladder and you move up, then the chutes will actually bring you down, or the snake will swallow and then, you'll come down. So we were actually playing the game. And whenever somebody got a ladder, I would ask them the question, what are some of the things that helped you reach your sprint goal? How did you progress well, during the sprint? What are the things that the chutes that brought you down? Things that really brought you down are things that made you feel like, this is not right. All of those things can be gathered using this information. There's a sailboat technique, fishbone technique. I used a retrospective using my Scrum, the tree that we saw yesterday, the values, courage, focus, openness, respect, and commitment. Where did you show respect? Where did you show commitment? Did we focus on the sprint goals or not? And then I would give them sticky notes and then put it on the route of whichever one you want to talk about. They'll put sticky notes right around that route called courage, or maybe somebody would put it on focus. So all of these things are great ways of gathering that information. I think using the sticky notes like Fabio mentioned is another great way of doing it, but gather that information. Initially, sometimes, you feel like maybe let's do an anonymous retrospective. That's fine, but let's just speak up. At some point, people might be able to understand and say, hey, I said that, courage to speak up, and then they can talk about it. But there's a lot of different ways of conducting a retrospective. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. But Devin, your thoughts, your question?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, start with just an idea for before we start all of our classes, you go over, you always go over the things that we thought that worked and the things that we want to improve on. And that's something you can also do before retrospective with your team as a Scrum Master. It's how people, even they were to use Miro or whatever, and they put their own sticky notes, and it's a way of being anonymous in a sense. But then you could read them off to start the whole retrospective, or after every sprint, you just have somebody else read the board, but everybody implements what they think will work, what they need to improve on, or whatever. So just like a thought board, and then beginning of each sprint retrospective, then a different person can read off all of them to the group, and just as a way for people to be anonymous and still communicate with the group.
Yeah, absolutely. I think these are all great ideas. One other thing is that I would like to from time to time I change the a scenario, meaning not the scene. Instead of doing every time in an office, probably I did it a retrospective in a bar one time for a happy hour. I did the retrospective in a park one time. The team was playing frisbee, and we were all doing that. I did a musical chairs retrospective one time where people are playing the musical chairs game, and whoever was out will probably go and put that sticky note on the retrospective, and we will gather and then start doing a retrospective. Setting that stage can be fun and engaging. So lots of different ways of doing it. But one thing that I can caution you about retrospectives in a bar: do not talk to your team members after the second drink, because I was surprised. What are they saying? So I stopped serving drinks to them, and I said, I'm not buying you any drinks. Only after the retrospective is done, right? Somebody said maybe that's true. What they're saying is the true feeling. Well, I don't know about that. They should have the courage to speak up anyway. So I'm saying that don't do that. So, but yeah, retrospectives can be fun. I did one time. I actually did a retrospective close to 25 different retrospectives in a year. We were doing 2-week sprints. But you have to figure out one retrospective that I did was for a new team. Glad, sad, mad. What are the things that you're glad about? What are the things that you're mad about? What are the things that you're sad about? The problem with that was the floodgates of everyone opened up so much. I'm really mad at whatever. And then, so I kind of said, what? It works really well for mature people, like teams, rather than doing with new teams, because sometimes people are still kind of struggling to understand the framework. And if you don't understand all of those things, people might get into that thinking, we worked so hard, and it should never become a finger pointing game, right? Never, never, ever bring that up. Talk about situations, but do not do anything more than that. Now, sprint retrospectives, Diana Larson and let me see, Esther Derby, Diana Larson's book is there. But I also did another retrospective. I'm going to put that in the chat for you, where there's they used to have a lot more, but they started charging money for that at this point of time. And I see that. So another one, thank you for that, Fabio. Another one, which is retrospectives, ideas. These actually are pretty cool because they have templates to use in Miro and Mural, 2 different tools. And they have different ones so Christmas retrospectives. So different kinds of retrospectives. Christmas is coming up. Maybe the Gremlins retro, Night Before Christmas retro, Home Alone retrospective, and all of these things are something that you can use. TV show retrospectives. Netflix, House of Dragons, SpongeBob, Squid Games, Game of Thrones. Friends retrospectives. Actually, that reminds me about Matthew Perry. But I would do a retrospective where I talk about what would Chandler do in this situation, or what would Rachel do. So one of the Friends episodes was something that I would use. If you're a big fan of Star Trek retrospectives, do Star Trek, right? It's all theme-based retrospectives. That'll be really that'll engage people quite a bit because it's very, very interesting. Agile games, estimation game is one of them. Food retrospectives, pizza retrospective. I also did a retrospective on based on games, right? So football retrospective, American football retrospective. A lot of my European friends, other people were like, why do you play football with your hands? I don't understand that from an American perspective. And somebody said, we do a cricket retrospective. What is cricket? Is that like a critter or an insect? No, cricket is a game that is played in many parts of the world where the World Cup is happening now. I guess, I mean, people from New Zealand and Australia and other parts of the world can really understand that. But a lot of different ways of conducting retrospectives, which will be fun and engaging. And you'll also understand the culture of other people too, right? Sports is one great thing that can bring you together. Books are one way of doing it. Music albums or TV retrospectives, all of these things are fantastic ways of conducting a retrospective. So, but more importantly, have fun, identify areas of improvement, and start working with your team. Yeah, any other thoughts? Any questions on retrospectives? So try these things. Yeah, Ben?
Hey, Raj. Yeah, I was just going to mention Matthew McConaughey has a good book called Green Lights. That's a great analogy for lots of things in life, but you could use that in retrospectives. It's kind of like the red lights are the obstacles that come up in your life. The green lights are obviously where you get the go ahead and you have the wins. And the amber lights are where you stop, pause, reflect, and adapt.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Yes, Arnold?
Raj, this is a little out of retrospective, but I wanted to ask. I see being new to Scrum, Agile is pretty much a mindset that's applied everywhere. Is it advisable to become a Scrum Master and explore your experience by also being doing a certification for SAFe?
Yeah, we'll talk about all of those things, maybe at the end of the day today. We'll just have an open-ended discussion. But scaling is one of those things where you have multiple people. I'll give you a one-line answer so that you're not left hanging. SAFe, Scrum at Scale, Large-Scale Scrum, these are also certifications that are helpful for people to, when you're working with multiple teams, multiple products. And that is something that, I would advise people to do it after you experience Scrum within your own team. Because if you just get certification for the sake of certification, I don't think that, you'll learn too much. But I think if you're new to Scrum, that's what you're saying, which means that at least, gather some experience before you start scaling, because that's going to happen after the fact, not, before you start working in Scrum anyway. So first work with your teams and then move on and invest in other areas. Yeah. Yes, Jeanette?
I was just curious what your thoughts are around changing or swapping around who chairs the retro. So I've worked on a project where the Scrum Master does the scene setting, but then different people get a turn of, selecting a board or running through Scrum. And I found it was just a really nice way also of knowledge sharing and also giving other people an opportunity to speak.
Yeah, I think, I've done that as well in the past. That was helpful. One other thing that I actually tried was bringing in another Scrum Master altogether from a different team. And some people are like, I don't know, if we are comfortable sharing all of this information with another Scrum Master. But I think, if you kind of trust and then start working with them, maybe they come up with different ideas. It's more unbiased than maybe your own Scrum Master, right? Sometimes you feel that way. You shouldn't be, but I think it might have that opportunity. Yeah. All right. Elmo is for us now, right? You're talking about Devin? Yeah. Okay. So I think, I think we beat this topic to death, but I think lots of good information came out. But let's do a quick knowledge check on this. See how Elmo helps, right?
I swear I didn't want to be that guy. I'm a nice guy.
Yeah, so that helps, right? If you say, I think you added something more like respectfully. So that kind of helps. So
if I could put the picture of Elmo, I think it'd be better.
I think we do have that, in my organization. We have like full Elmo.
Yeah, when I become a Scrum Master, I'll just get a little teddy bear. I'll just put it up.
Yeah. All right, so we have completed Scrum events. And that was the last topic that we had to complete. And let's do a quick knowledge check on events, all the events in Scrum. The sprint is always 30 days in length. Incorrect.
Incorrect.
The daily Scrum is a 15-minute time-boxed event, and for the developers to sync up with each other, to inspect the progress towards the sprint goal and how that progress is trending towards completion. Correct. The sprint review is intended mainly for the product owner, but others can be optionally invited. Incorrect. It's not for the product owner. If you're doing it just for your own product owner in your organization, that means that you're not really getting any feedback from your stakeholders, sponsors, and customers. So you need to make sure that you involve them. The many reasons that I've always heard is, oh, I'm busy. They don't have time. These kinds of things that can be basically the Scrum Master puts on the hat of an educator and educates them about the benefit of how we need to conduct these reviews so that we can all benefit as a team. Sprint planning takes place before the sprint starts. Incorrect, because it happens after the sprint starts. Because sprint planning initiates the sprint. So that means it happens soon after the sprint starts. If the team feels that the sprint retrospective can be skipped, the Scrum Master should cancel it. Incorrect. Never cancel an event. During the daily Scrum, Mary says that she has found a solution to a problem. The time to discuss this is at the daily Scrum. Incorrect, because it's not for problem solving. It's only for the team to sync up with each other, but they can collaborate after the daily Scrum to solve any problems on that. Product backlog refinement is done only by the product owner. Incorrect, because it's a collaborative effort by the entire Scrum team, because the developers need to ask clarifying questions and also help the product owner size the product backlog items. So it's a collaborative effort, not just only done by the product owner. Only a product increment that meets the definition of done is shown at the sprint review. Correct, because there's nothing else to show if it is not done. But in all transparency, you want to engage the customer and tell them, hey, you know what, we planned on completing these things, but we did not for whatever reason. So please feel free to, you're basically talking about that and in all transparency. That's the idea here. Yeah. All right, Devin, your question.
Yeah, really quickly. I just have two questions. First thing, it was sorry, I'm trying to find the question. It was, the sprint planning takes place before the sprint starts. I know that was false. So what is in between? Is it in between the product backlog and a sprint, right? And then it goes sprint planning.
So just to clarify, sprint is a calendar event. Let's say your sprint starts on a Monday morning, right? We have started the sprint on a Monday morning. The sprint is going to end on a Friday evening. That's a 1 week sprint. First thing that happens on a Monday morning is your sprint planning, because this initiates the sprint, it starts the sprint. Every day, you're going to do your daily Scrum. And typically on that last day, which is Friday, you do your sprint review and end the day with the sprint retrospective. The sprint ends and then the next sprint starts. While all of this is happening, you also do your product backlog refinement for the upcoming sprints, because it's a forward-looking activity. And the team decides to do that.
So I guess where I was confused is, or like, I guess more of my question is like, so when do you initiate, like, okay, we are now in a sprint? Because like, let's say, okay, your team, you get a product owner, they now have this product that they now introduced to you that they want to be made. And it's like, okay, now we're starting a sprint, or like, you see what I'm saying? Is there a gray area in between there? Or is that like, is it quite literally like, as soon as you get a project, you're in a sprint, you're just trying to figure out how to start the whole project?
We are basically, I mean, whenever you are starting the sprint, that means that's when, you probably do for sprint number 1, right? Because the sprints are progressively improving. Before the sprint number 1, you probably have to have a definition of done. you need to have a product backlog, and you have those teams formed, and all of that stuff happens organically. But I wouldn't take more than the length of the sprint to plan this. Jump in and start sprinting, because that gives you the most benefit instead of, because it's all about experimentation anyway. So I would say
Right.
those initial things should happen. Sometimes people also have like working agreements. We'll call Elmo if somebody talks too much. We'll make sure that we do this, or we respect each other's opinions without fighting parking lot, whatever it may be. Right? You want to follow that.
Okay, and my second question, I don't want to drag on. The number 8 says only a product increment that meets the definition of done is shown to the sprint review. So is there any kind of communication between the Scrum Master and the PO in between a sprint, like on the regular, before a review, like of just pure communication of like, we got this done, we got that done? Like, is there just that transparency even like on the daily basis, or, without an actual deliver?
Absolutely. That must happen every single day, every single moment if you feel like. But
that's just like basic email stuff, like just basic, like, hey, just finish this, just letting you know.
All right, sometimes just go and as a Scrum Master, just go to their office and find out, hey, you know what, I just want to run by something, we are doing these things. How do you feel? What's happening? Did you get a chance to talk to any of the stakeholders? Are they coming to the sprint review? Just make sure that they are there. If not, I'll send a reminder. Let's figure it out. And then we'll make sure that the team gets ready to present this information. All of those things can happen. It's all about, like you said, transparency. But you have tools as well, right? So I can actually see how we are progressing towards the completion of the goal. That can also happen.
Okay, appreciate it. That's all.
Sure.
Roger, I'm still not clear on 4. How do you start sprint without planning?
That's the planning part of it, is part of the sprint. You're starting the sprint, that it's kind of confusing. It feels like that, but planning is a part of the sprint. You're planning for the current sprint, which means that we started our sprint. The time box has started. These are all time boxed events. So that's why it is considered as a part. Sprint is a container event. Sprint contains all these 4 additional events like sprint planning, daily scrum, sprint review, sprint retrospective, right? Like that heart of Scrum, which means like the 4 chambers of the heart, like we said. Yeah. Yes, Michael?
So is this like when you're learning to drive, you turn the car on, you start driving, and then they start teaching you, okay, hands on the wheel, turn here, okay, start the car, do this, do that, as opposed to telling you all that while the car is not in motion? So the same thing?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's a great way of putting it as a metaphor. Yeah. Yes, Ali?
So there isn't any preparation that goes on before the sprint starts, like any prospecting or anything else. The preparation is a part of the sprint, correct?
So when you say preparation for sprint before it starts, the preparation is happening during product backlog refinement.
Yeah.
Remember, we are refining our product backlog for the upcoming sprint. It's a forward-looking activity. So we want to make sure that we have a refined product backlog before we start sprinting, planning for the sprint. All of that is happening the previous sprint, just to kind of get ready to have an effective sprint planning session. Good question.
Okay. Thank you.
Ali, sorry, Raj. Ali, if you check in the Miro, there's a place where Raj has put like a circle, and it shows all around, and it has sprint in the middle, and then it shows direction of how the sprint goes. So sprint is not like Raj, I don't know if you can be able to pull that. It's hard for me to explain. There's a circle here. I just saw it right now. It's here at the bottom. No, you went too far. Go back on your left. It's on your left.
This one?
No, go on your left. It's where all your notes are. It's not here. Where all the notes are. Keep going left.
Is it the one on the artifacts that you're talking about?
And then go down, right there on your left, right there. A little, yep, right there. You see it? Yeah.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you I think that makes you understand better so that you're not looking as at sprint like
Yeah, like
It's like most people are looking at sprint, which was I think what I was doing wrong. Looking at sprint is like a more like daily event, kind of
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like daily
exactly.
scrum and stuff. Like sprint is the entire thing all put together, and within a sprint you have planning. Within a sprint you have daily scrum and sprint review. But regardless, the question like was my original first question. It's like, okay, so like how do you plan before you get into a sprint? And it's like, no, sprint planning is a part of the sprint. You started a sprint, which is why the planning is the beginning of the sprint, but the sprint is the whole entity.
Yeah.
Correct. It's like it initiates the sprint. Planning initiates the sprint. Yes, Erica.
I guess here's why I get confused because you're saying the sprint planning, but in the organization I'm in, we do a PI planning. But prior to the PI planning, we have to have like I'll have to get the stories together that'll be in the backlog. And then during the PI planning is when we align them to the sprint. So is that what you're referring to as a sprint planning? Or
So
PI planning?
you're not doing Scrum, you're doing SAFe.
Okay.
So that's why you're getting confused with that. Scrum is this, just framework that allows you to do that. But when you have to scale, when you have multiple people, product increment planning or PI planning is something that you normally work with other teams. You want to get ready so that, hey, this is what we are building. What are you building this sprint so that we can talk about each other and we follow that vision.
So that makes sense then. That's why I was kind of confused.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Time for celebration. Oh, I actually, you know what, Arnold, thank you for bringing my attention to this slide. It's been in a long, long time after I actually used this, in my classroom. So I'm glad that you caught the attention on this one.
Yeah, Raj, I was confused too about the sprint and the sprint planning, and then when you're talking, I'm just looking at them, and then I saw this. I was like, perfect.
Yeah. Thank you.
Raj, I think that the question might have been confusing because in the question 4, I think it says that it starts before rather than it starts off the sprint.
Right. In fact, this is one of the only questions that almost everyone gets it wrong, in the sense, maybe the framing of the question is not right, or maybe it's not relevant, but actually it's a good thing that I keep it because it sparks this kind of a conversation.
Well,
so that the confusion is eliminated.
I think that the way that it's worded actually gives you a different perspective of looking at it, and that's what throws everybody off. Because we all think about it in the right way originally, and then you get asked a question like that, and then you go back to drawing board, like, wait a minute, hold on. It's like, wait a minute, maybe I'm wrong, and then no, you're actually right, but you've never been asked a question in that perspective.
I mean, if it shows up in the exam, I think part of the invigilator too is to trick you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think that you'll have any tricky questions. It's pretty much, it should be straightforward questions. But some of those questions I intentionally put them to start thinking, right? If we just have a straightforward answer to questions, what's the fun in it? I think I want to spark that interest and just to make sure that we kind of start thinking, oh, what does that mean? What does this mean? Which should help you enhance your learning, hopefully. Yeah.
A little bit like fake news, Raj. Gets everyone talking.
Yes. Spark the interest. All right, so we have a minute left for our break. So what we'll do is we'll take our break now. So we'll take the half-hour break. When we come back, a few things that I'd like to do is we'll do more knowledge checks like the ones that we have done just now, from a product owner, Scrum Master, and developer's perspective, so that you can get ready for the test. There were some open-ended questions that some of you asked, but then we'll also take some time to do that. But if you have time or if you have the interest, we can also do some more scenarios, real-life scenarios as to how you would solve those problems. And then we'll talk about the test, we'll talk about networking, and then we'll go from there. But before we do that, during the break, I want Azhar to see if we have, we can release the exam link soon after we are done. as soon, if everyone has provided their information to Knowledge Hut, is there anyone needs to fill out a form or anything that to complete everything, attendance to et cetera, let us know. You can put it in the chat.
How long is the test as far as like the actual duration? Not, I know how many questions, but the duration.
1 hour. You have 1 hour.
So Raj, what did you mean by filling out the form? Does that just mean setting up your account in Knowledge Hub?
Yeah, I think just in Knowledge Hut. Yeah, essentially, I think, they just want to verify everything, like, your name and all of that information about how it should show up on your certificate, etc. And that will provide them, all the information. So yeah, everyone is good to go. This is cool. We'll just update it. Otherwise, they'll come back and, they may have to gather that information. Instead of that, this is one way of doing it. Yeah, we'll talk about all of the tests and everything when we come back. Don't worry about it now. Yeah.
Raj, who do we reach out to for that correction again?
Azhar is actually going to
Azhar.
send something. Yeah. He's
Okay.
on the. So he will put a link somewhere, and then I'm going to just say, okay, I think let's take a break. Can you please provide if anyone needs to complete the all right, so let's do a 30-minute break. Here you go. This is written from a product owner's perspective, but the other things are written from Scrum Master and developer's perspective. But it covers a lot of artifacts, all the entire Scrum framework. I intentionally kept it for the last thing, so we can talk about it.
Excuse me?
Yeah. I guess somebody needs to mute themselves. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Product owners should decide the release dates of the product upon the team meeting the definition of done. Correct. Product owner and product manager are the same thing. Incorrect, because they are two different people. Product owner is a part of the Scrum team. You could have a product manager, but they may be outside of the Scrum team. Some organizations have product managers as a title. Product owner must not estimate the product backlog items. Correct, because the product owner does not estimate the product backlog items. Scrum Master, product owner do not estimate. Only the developers who are doing the work are the ones who are estimating. Product owner and Scrum Master are often the same person. Different people. Product owner is a single person, not a committee or group of people. Correct. Product owner tells the developers as to how to convert product backlog items into an increment. Incorrect, because the how-to part is left up to the developers because they're self-managing team. So they have the autonomy and empowerment to make those decisions on the how. Product owner only focuses on the why and the what. Product owner is the only person who can change the order of the product backlog. Correct. Nobody else can change the order of the product backlog because product owner makes those decisions about the ordering and sequentially ordering that. So they have the full authority of that.
Rush.
Yeah.
So sorry to interrupt. So they are the only ones that can rearrange, but you can add, right? Other people can add to the backlog.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Just want to verify that.
Sure. The product owner can change the sprint backlog anytime during the sprint, including changing the sprint goal. Nobody can change the sprint goal, but even the product owner does not own the sprint backlog. The developers own the sprint backlog, so they have the authority. Remember, we addressed this with the rules around that, a basement party, which, by the way, the flight has been canceled for some reason. The jet has been canceled. Sorry about that. The product owner must keep the product backlog in a safe place and not share it with the Scrum team. That's a giveaway. Product owner is typically a part-time role. It's a full-time role. Awesome. Any other questions on this?
Raj, question number 4.
Yeah.
3. Even though the PO must not estimate, the Scrum Master helps facilitates the estimate, right?
Correct. That's right.
Okay.
But they are not helping. They are not estimating. Both product owner and the Scrum Master are not estimating. Scrum Master is facilitating. Product owner is answering the questions and clarifying expectations. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. To meet the sprint goal, the developers have the authority to do whatever is necessary to accomplish the sprint goal. That is correct. The developers can bring up their impediments only at the daily Scrum. Incorrect, because in fact, they should bring it up as soon as they arise rather than waiting for the daily Scrum. The developers are responsible for putting product backlog items into an increment that meets the definition of done in every sprint. Correct. The Scrum Master assigns work to the developers during sprint planning. Incorrect, because Scrum Masters are not assigning. The team is self-managing, so they will do it on their own. The developers are responsible for the quality of the product it creates. Correct. In fact, we take pride in building a quality product. The developers have specific skills, specific titles like architect, QA engineer on the Scrum team. Incorrect, because Everyone is called a developer. You don't want to provide any other things. Not to be confused with programmers or developers on an IT team. Developers are mutually accountable. Correct. The developers must never interact with the customer. Incorrect. The specific skills needed by the developers are often broad and will vary with the domain of work. Correct. The Scrum Master and the product owner together create a plan for the sprint backlog. Incorrect, because it's the developers in collaboration with the product owner, Scrum Master, create the sprint backlog. All right, any other questions? Any questions? Yes, Fabio.
So statement number, which was it? Statement number 8, the developer must never interact with the customer. A couple of times during these 3 days, we said that, oh, it's the product owner that is the voice of the customer, and the customer shouldn't speak to the developers. So, and now it says the developers must never interact with the customer, and that is wrong. So the developers do have direct contact with the customer, the one who uses the end product. My question is, during which event is that interaction happening?
So first of all, we never said that, the customer should not, the developers would not react or interact with the customers. Also, there's no such thing as, and the product owner may be the customer's voice, but that does not mean that the developers can never interact with them. So the majority of the interaction, as we have seen, happens during the sprint review, right? That's when we are presenting the information or the product increment that we have delivered. We talk about all of those things and get feedback from the customer. So that interaction is happening multiple times. And there's no clear, like saying that you should not do this, you should never do this from a developer point of view. Majority of the times, maybe the product owner might say, well, I want to invite somebody to talk about, some things. Or maybe the Scrum Master may say, one of the developers has a question, can we, talk to them? All of these things are naturally happening where you don't want to restrict the team members from interacting. I mean, many times what happens is the customers or stakeholders or sponsors may be multiple people. So that can drive the developers kind of like confused. So we always go to that one go-to person, product owner, rather than going to multiple people and chasing down multiple people, wasting their time. So this is where the Scrum Master steps in and say, well, if it must absolutely happen, maybe, you know what, let's talk to somebody. Let's talk to the product owner and say, what do you feel about this? Because it's a team decision. That's how we interact with each other. So I think here must never interact with the customer is more or less like kind of saying that there's no interaction happening. Yeah, channel of communication would be, I mean, you can do that. Essentially, like we said, the product owner is the customer's voice, which means they are representing the community. So majority of that is happening with the Scrum team during product backlog refinement and other times. But, we might also decide, hey, how do we want to handle this? Let's have a working agreement. Let's not go directly, like one developer starts going to a stakeholder or sponsor. That may not be a good idea because that might be confusing because the product owner might be caught by surprise. The stakeholder might start assigning work to the developers. Oh yeah, I love this developer. He might do my work or she might do my work. Let it give to them. So I think all these things are kind of, getting into those suboptimal situations. So I think having the right communication channel may be a good idea. Yeah. All right.
Sorry, wouldn't that be face-to-face conversation? It's one of the principles, right?
It could be, yeah. I mean, it's better to have a face-to-face conversation. But if not, hey, you know what, I have a, you know, phone call that I need to make. Maybe, it's not the best type of communication, but it's okay. Other than not talking, I think maybe this is a good way of getting into it. Yeah, emails, all those things take forever, right? Yes, Ali.
Yeah, so for point number 2, you mentioned that they shouldn't bring their impediments only at the daily scrum, that they should bring it up as soon as possible. I did remember that you mentioned that there was something specific about not mentioning a certain thing at the daily scrum. I was thinking, I was kind of confused that maybe that was the impediments, that they should not bring it up during the daily scrum and they should bring it outside of that. But then this would imply that they can't bring it up during the daily scrum.
Yeah, so the clarification on that is impediments are brought up during the daily scrum, but impediments are not resolved during the daily scrum. You're not solving those impediments because it'll take time. But raising those impediments gives you that situational awareness, and people will know, oh, I think, there's a problem. Looks like we can all benefit from this if we can resolve this. Let's park it, Elmo it, talk about it after the daily scrum is done, and then we can collaborate on that at that point of time. But daily scrum is not the only forum for us to say, well, this is an impediment, right? Because, if impediments are things that are blocking you from reaching your sprint goal, why would you wait for the next day to do it, right? So you would resolve them as soon as possible.
But Raj, the impediments are one of the 3 main key questions that have been asked on daily scrum, isn't it?
Yeah, that could be, but that doesn't mean that, that's the only way of conducting your daily scrum. That's just an example of saying what are some of the impediments I'm facing that might prevent me from meeting the sprint goal. That provides you that situational awareness that can the developers start thinking about, like, do I need to report anything back to my team regarding this? But that's not the only way of conducting your daily scrum. You can, as long as you focus on the sprint goal, you can do your daily scrum however you want it. That was just an example by the Scrum Guide. So, yeah. All right, moving on to, I think, Scrum Master. Scrum Master is accountable for establishing Scrum as defined in the Scrum Guide. Correct. The Scrum Master creates a Gantt chart for developers and assigns tasks to them during sprint planning. Incorrect, because Scrum Master is not a project manager. Scrum Master is accountable for the Scrum team's effectiveness. Correct. If the product owner doesn't order the product backlog, the Scrum Master will do it on his or her behalf. Incorrect. The Scrum Master serves the developers, product owner, and the organization. Correct. Scrum Master is a project manager of the Scrum team. Incorrect. Scrum Master ensures that all Scrum events take place and are positive, productive, and kept within the time box. Correct. Scrum Master is a leader with ultimate authority on the Scrum team. They don't have any authority over the team. They are just a true leader. Scrum Master serves the team in several ways, including causing the removal of impediments to the Scrum team's progress. Correct. It's like, helping them remove impediments, right? So they can teach them to solve impediments, but they are there to, help them resolve those impediments. Scrum Masters must have coding skills and technical knowledge. Not necessary. Awesome. Great job, everyone. Any questions on these?
I had a question on one. Sorry, I always forget which question it was. Here, let me find it if somebody else has another question.
Okay.
Is Scrum Master always 100% job?
What do you think?
Don't know. Depends, I guess.
Should it be?
I think it could be, right? Because the whole point of getting the certification is so that you are a Scrum Master, right?
Right. Absolutely. Because many teams have this confusion. Remember, we talked about job descriptions. We are looking for a Scrum Master / project manager / portfolio manager / somebody else who can do cooking as well as cleaning our bathrooms and things like that. You are immediately hired. No, this is not the way that it works. Scrum Master is a dedicated role, but what happens is that it's a conflict of interest. If the Scrum Master is working, it's not a conflict of interest, but it creates suboptimal situations. Let's say a Scrum Master is working on 2 teams. They're only 80% productive. Not only that, what happens if an impediment arises, and who would they go and pick? It will be competing demands, and it becomes difficult to manage. I think there's no clear direction or indication from the Scrum guide, but many times you see that the Scrum Masters, many organizations, they can't really say, oh, what do they do after the daily Scrum? After the 15 minutes, what do they do? I'm like, well, they are observing the team. What do you mean by observing the team? Well, they are there to help them protect the team. If people like you or who are managers who distract them, they are there to help them. So all of these things can happen, but yeah, I wouldn't really go beyond serving 2 teams if it comes to that, because like we said, okay, we are all going, I'm teaching something by the book here, but what happens in those situations where you can't really make any career limiting move saying, hey, the Scrum guide says that it's 100%. No, we want you to work on 2 teams because we don't see the value a Scrum Master brings. So sometimes you may just have to work with those parameters because I think, Scrum doesn't give you all the rules and all the steps, but you may have to work within your organization and see what works in those situations. But we all know that I think it produces suboptimal situations when you start working on, multiple things. Same thing with the developers. What happens if they start working on 5 different teams? Well, you're 0% productive. Is that okay? They don't even have the team feeling, right? Oh, which team do I belong to? So product owner is the one person who can work on multiple teams, because if they're operating from the same product backlog, that's actually okay, because that we need to have one product owner. No, again, I think, that causes situations where if I'm the Scrum Master and also be the developer, again, suboptimal situations. What would I do if there's interesting work? Would I be the one who picks the work and not give it to the developers? That's a possibility. So I think, it's always good to avoid those kinds of things. But in my, experience, I have seen a lot of people do this where they are a Scrum Master. The team is really matured. They have nothing else to do because they made the team look so good, so they can also do work. But sometimes I also say work means maybe I can do some documentation, I can do some testing, I can do some analysis, I can work with another person to do some pair programming. All those things are okay. But having that 100% dedication to, or splitting that, you're not doing justice to either of the roles. So that's why I don't like that. But if it has to be that, then if the product owner and the Scrum Master are also doing the work, yeah, I think that provides that hint there for sure. Yes. So again, I think that is a very unclear thing in that situation. But I would probably focus on having a dedicated role, at least in the initial stages. But once you become a mature team, then you can start experimenting on bending the rules or breaking the rules to your advantage if you want to. Yeah.
Raj, I remember my question now. It was for question number 7, where it says the Scrum Master ensures that all the Scrum events take place and are positive, productive, and kept within the time box. How important is it to enforce the time box? And what are some examples that you can give us, I guess, of going about like ending a ending a meeting in a positive way, without being
so obviously we want to make sure that, the time boxing is, adhered to, because
Like,
if
is that
you,
something, I'll say, is
Yeah.
that something where it's like, the like timer's up, like, all right, let's get working, or is it something where it's just like a reminder?
I would do, I mean, I guess, again, there's no clear indication, but, I would say, hey, we have 15 more minutes left. Can we speed up and then make sure we make a decision at this point of time? What do you guys want to do?
Okay.
Or if somebody is repeating, more every time, maybe during the daily scrum, Elmo is a great way of saying, Elmo, let's move on. Somebody should call out Elmo on that person, because everyone else needs to get a chance to speak. So this is one of the areas where the scrum master should set the expectations, like, setting the stage, right?
And this is something where in the sprint, trying to think of the word, sprint, the last thing you do in the sprint. I'm just having a brain fart right now. This is something maybe you'll talk about how, in the sprint retrospective, this is something you might talk about, like, well, last time, our last sprint, guys, we've been really running over our time boxes. We need to try to be more productive with our time. Is that like a great example of my question?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, bring up those kinds of things. Always examples help. Make sure that they can connect to that. Hey, this is what happened last time as an example. So let's not do that going forward. Do you agree? And all of these things are important to bring it up.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Done with this?
Sorry, I have one more question came to my mind. If you're a truly cross-functional team, you could have every developer could theoretically also be a Scrum Master, and then you could rotate on a weekly basis on who is the Scrum Master, because everyone could substitute another developer. Is that something you have come across?
Cross-functionality does not mean like, it's right as, the Scrum team is cross-functional, but that does not mean that, they have all the skills. There still has some specialties. It's not like, perfectly blended where everyone is like, almost to that point of where I know everything, right? It's hard to get into that kind of a state. So I wouldn't really consider that as, oh, let me just do this because I think, now I can, you can relax a little bit and become a Scrum Master, and we can rotate that on an ongoing basis. I think that shouldn't be the reason to do that. But if the team is like, well, we are self-managing, we are able to do all of these things, and, maybe we can do it. I mean, there's nothing wrong in experimenting with it, but it can be confusing, right? Oh, who's the Scrum Master this time? Oh, who's the Scrum Master that time? And it's kind of going to be a little challenging, in my opinion. Yeah. Experimentation is okay, but too much of experimentation sometimes destroys the empirical evidence that we are trying to gather, because Scrum is all founded on empiricism, right? Yeah. All right. Awesome. So time for us to celebrate. Can you tell me why or ask me why?
Now we're going to start talking about networking.
Yeah, we are going to talk about networking. We are going to talk about the test. So we have completed all of our learning objectives that are necessary for us, for you to take the test, so that you can get certified as a Scrum Master. So that's the good news. And let's talk about networking. So one of the things that normally what happens in any class that I do is there's also an exam study guide. If you are interested in looking at that, I'll talk about that in a minute. So I put my LinkedIn information and also my email ID on a sticky note. And what you can do is you can share your information as much as possible, and you can fill out this sticky note here. So all of you will have access. This information is not being sold to anyone or none of that stuff. It's only for us to collaborate in case if you want to help each other out. Now, I normally say that I think, many people and certain Scrum trainers, I say that, I don't want to be connected on LinkedIn. I don't do some of those things. But I'm actually very open to networking with people, and it's okay for us to network. And if you have any question or anything, that's fine. But one thing that I've noticed is that a lot of people, with this networking have found out, like, for example, I'm a CST and there's only about 250 CSTs in the world. Now, if you're connected to me on LinkedIn or any social media, right, you are basically connected to a lot of my own connections. So let's say you're looking for a job or you're looking for some support or mentoring or anything like that, you are connected to all like-minded people. This way, maybe you can benefit from that. For example, somebody said, I found a job because one of the recruiters that you are actually connected to reached out to me saying that they were looking for a Scrum Master, certified Scrum Master who works in the healthcare industry. And I'm so thankful that I did that. And so I said, okay, let's help each other out, right? So again, I think, this is something, it's up to you, not like mandatory or anything like that, but let's help each other out. Maybe, one of you, who is in Australia is looking for somebody who's, remotely working as a Scrum Master from the US. That's totally okay because they have connections or offices in the US, or you have some connections somewhere else. So let's help each other out is the idea here. So feel free to do that. Yeah, looking for a job. I'm looking for a job. I'm here. That's the great start, right? So now we know that Ben is looking for a job. So if anyone wants to help, hey, you know what? I found out that, my New Zealand compartment, somebody from there, is looking for somebody in these areas, whatever it is, you can help each other out. Yeah. So that's something. So one other thing is that, in case if you get any feedback on, like if you want to provide feedback, right? For example, once you pass the test, you're going to be a certified Scrum Master. Give me a shout out on LinkedIn saying that, hey, you know what? I liked his class. You can take a class with Raj Kasturi. He's an okay guy. Whatever you want to say. I mean, obviously, if it is 5-star, put it on LinkedIn. If it is less than that, give me a email saying that, hey, these are the areas that you can become better in. So all of those things are absolutely okay.
I'll make sure to mention that you give out free breaks.
Yeah, exactly. So free breaks, Picasso art, a lot of different things, right? And then he also charges for some of these things like links and stuff like that. People ask me repeatedly, like, Venmo only, remember that? Yeah, all of that. No, I think, this is the great way of doing it because we are all alumni, right? In case if you're interested in another course or something like that in the future, reach out to me. I normally do free mentoring, but at this point of time, I have 19 people in the queue. So I don't want to overpromise. And then, I think there's a waiting list up until like 9 months. People are like, oh, I don't know, I think I don't have that much patience. I move on. But I want to offer you the support that if you want and have any questions on anything, just reach out to me, send me an email. At least I'll put you in the right direction. Somebody says, hey, I'm taking this course. Can I take this other certification? I'm like, if you have a lot of money to throw out, just throw it at me and I'll gather that because, why spend unnecessarily on some certifications, but I'll put you at least in the right direction. That's what I meant. Sorry,
what about
Kevin.
stuff like interviewing questions and things like that? Because I feel like that's probably where my next step is. It's just interviewing questions and then like things like places to get like short-term experience before the workforce.
Yeah, I would say that I think, I am currently not doing that because I think it requires my dedication to do that. Yeah. Not that I'm not interested, but I'm teaching back to back. So currently I'm not doing that, maybe in the future. But I would say reach out to, once you become a Scrum Alliance member, you'll have a lot of like-minded people. So maybe you can find a mentor in there and say, hey, you know what? I want to volunteer for a Scrum Master role if you have any. Can I just observe, one of your daily scrums? Can I get some experience doing that? I can sign a confidentiality agreement or whatever you require, but I'm willing to learn. Can you be my mentor? Right? These are all great questions to ask. And if you like somebody, obviously you want to do some research on them If somebody is asking you for money, absolutely don't, no, in my opinion. Because I don't want to pay anyone if somebody wants to do that. It should be a community service. It's giving back to the community. Like the way
That's
I do.
typically the environment in the whole Scrum Alliance. It's just like, you know, we all help each other because I guess ultimately it just makes development better in general for the actual world.
Correct, exactly. Transforming the world of work, like Scrum Alliance
Mhm.
mentioned.
I mean, what good does it do if you're the best Scrum Master, but you don't want to help a team?
Exactly. Yeah, right there. Awesome. Yeah, I think, a lot of people have already started filling this out, which is fantastic. So let's talk about next steps. So I have, a few blog posts that I've written, and it's on limitlessagility.com. So if you're interested in just looking at some of that blog posts, they're a little older, but that's kind of like, I didn't do blogging in a while, but then I've been doing some other stuff. But essentially, this is my website. So blog site is like, for example, my blog will talk about T-shaped skills, a self-assessment of a Scrum team that I did, certain things like, fine art of listening, Scrum tree, story of a product owner, a few things that, I've written. Maybe if you benefit from that, feel free to look at it, but it's been a while since I did that, almost like 5-6 years now. But yeah, feel free to use this, and if that is helpful to you. Now, regarding the test, essentially what will happen now is that you are going to get an email from Scrum Alliance. Once you fill out all of your forms and everything looks like everyone is okay so far, you will receive an email from Scrum Alliance saying, congratulations on completing your course with Raj Kasturi. Here is where you need to register to be a Scrum Alliance member. So you just register to become a member of the Scrum Alliance. You are getting 2 years of complimentary membership from Scrum Alliance for free, and it's included, and we're going to also pay for your exam fee. And once that is done, you can take the test by following the instructions in the email that you receive. So when you're ready to take the test, that's when you want to say, take the test. It's an online test. It's basically, open book. You're not going to any Prometric Center or none of those areas. You're just going to take it from the comfort of your own home or Starbucks or coffee shop, wherever you want to do it. It's totally up to you. It's a 1-hour time test, and you must submit all of your answers within the 1 hour. Typically, people have told me average time is about 30 minutes to 35 minutes. They were able to answer all the questions very comfortably. There's about 50 multiple choice questions, not like the ones that we have done, but there's multiple choice, A, B, C, D. And you need to get 37 or higher to pass the test. Like I said, 2 14-year-old Girl Scouts in my class aced the test. So I asked them, what was their success mantra? They said, we looked at Picasso art. We also looked at the Scrum guide, and they were able to ace the test. So if you look at those, I think you'll be able to ace the test. If you, for some reason, try very hard to fail the test the first time, you can get take the test for free the second time. If you fail the test the second time, then you may have to pay $25 from your pocket to take that, and you can take the test multiple number of times. It doesn't really matter. So far in the history of my teaching, none of my students have failed even the first time. Only one person failed in January of this year. So she basically took the test the next day and she got 100%. So if those 14-year-olds can do it, you can do it. And I can see that, I think, based on all the questions that you have asked, and also the answers that you provided and the activities that you have done, you are doing a great job. So you should pat yourself on your back by saying that I think you did the right research to ask the right questions, and you asked the right real life questions, and provided some metaphors and examples also from this class. So I'm happy about that. So you should be able to do that really well. If you come back and you tell me, hey, I got a 74% Raj, I passed, I'm going to be very unhappy because I'm raising the bar to 90%. If for some reason you get less than 90%, don't tell me. I mean, who cares, right? At the end of the day, you are a CSM certified Scrum Master, but I just try to say that. So let's celebrate. Let's put it on LinkedIn. Let's give us each other a shout out. And I think, let the world know that there's going to be 27 more certified Scrum Masters that are joining to the elite club of 1.4 million certified Scrum Masters in the world. That's a big deal. So you must be really, you should be proud of yourself. And, the journey doesn't end here. It's the beginning of your journey. So invest in continuous learning and make sure that, you learn, you upskill, whatever is necessary at you from your side, and however you want to use this certification, right? This is just the beginning of everything. So that's what it is. But then, like I said, I'm here to help you. In case if you have any questions, don't hesitate to send me an email and I'll personally go back and answer that. Somebody said, hey, I sent you an email. It's been almost 20 hours. What happened? Why haven't you responded to my email? I'm like, so sorry, but I actually teach back to back. Let me breathe a little bit. So all I ask is 72 hours of time and I'll come back to you. In case if I'm on vacation or something, that's a different story.
Or $10.
Yeah, for $10 or $9.99 or whatever, right? So you will see that you have the results published immediately. It'll tell you, congratulations, now you're a certified Scrum Master. Now you can download your digital badge and then put it on LinkedIn on your profile, your certification details. So that's very helpful because it's authentic. I always, when I used to interview candidates, I used to go and look at the certification ID and when it is valid, etc. You can do that also. And then you can also print your certificate and put it somewhere. Put it on your refrigerator. Maybe you can share that information with the family members. Hey, look at me, I'm a certified Scrum Master. And maybe once you become a CSM, go back to your manager and say, hey, where's that, promotion that I was looking for? You're talking to a CSM now.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell him that at the end of this one.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely, right? Now, once you pass the test, if you fail the test for any reason, I'm here to help you. So you can reach out to me and say, you know what, hey, I failed the test. And I can ask you, I think the reasoning behind that is, if you fail the test for any reason the first time and you want my help, you can send me a business class ticket to your favorite destination and I'll come and personally coach you. I'll stop taking tickets to the continental US and Canada. If you have any tickets to Australia or New Zealand, that's the only two locations that I'm taking tickets to nowadays. I don't know, for some reason, nobody has sent me a ticket here so far. Yes, Ali, now I agree with you. Awesome. Any questions on the test or anything else? Everyone excited? Yeah?
I actually
right.
do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I've taken other certification exams, and the exam after taking the first time has changed a lot. So I was wondering, for the Scrum Master exam, does the exam change? Like, are there different topics that are going to be touched on, or is it going to stay the same? And I also do know that sometimes when there's different releases, different information changes, is there a specific time frame where the exam will change, or if there's any updates? I do know, for example, in Salesforce, they do change the exam, every now and then.
Yeah, that's a good question. So just to give you an idea, the test that you're going to be taking, each one of you will have different questions. It's not going to be the same exact test for everyone. It's not going to be like, oh, 1 is A, 2 is B, 3 is C. You can't really share that information and say, oh yeah, I think, we all took the exam together, right? That's not the way it works. So randomized questions. So from what I understand, they have a bank of 200 questions. And out of that, they just randomly pick some questions, but you'll get 50. So the next time, maybe, some of the questions may be the same, but it's going to be different. But overall, you should be in a position to take the test, and you should not have difficulty doing that. From version, well, the Scrum Guide changed or updates to the Scrum Guide, then the test will be changed a little bit based on those changes that are incorporated in the Scrum Guide. Other than that, there's not like frequent changes that are happening. After the 2020 Scrum Guide update, I mean, the test remained the same pretty much.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, any other questions?
Hey, sorry if you mentioned this before, but where's the link to the Google Docs material?
Yes, it's right here, and I'm going to put that in the chat for everyone in case you haven't bookmarked it. So here you go.
Thank you.
Hey, Raj.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I filled out the form where the link was posted before, but is there a way I can just double check?
Azhar, can you double check and make sure that Ben has the form filled out? Is there a way to look it up?
I'm pretty sure I did it, but I just.
Then I think you should be okay. I think you should be okay. Yeah.
Raj, you said the Girl Scouts who passed the exam, they looked at what?
The Picasso art with all the flip charts that I created with the sticky notes and everything, and also the Scrum Guide 2020, which is also in the Google Drive here.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. I wish you the best of luck.
How soon?
Let me know how things are
How
going.
soon are we gonna get the email for the exam?
Azhar, can you let us know what time we can expect the exam link to be released?
Hi, Raj.
Yeah.
You can get it in next few hours.
Next few hours. So typically, you know what, we ask like 24 hours, but if everyone filled out your forms and we have all the information, we are and taking the attendance and everything pretty easily. So I think, you should be good. So expect that in the next few hours.
Okay, thanks.
Is there a prize for the first one to finish it?
Yes. The prize is that, you will,
bragging rights.
Yeah, bragging rights. I think, say that I'm the first one to have finished that. We'll see that on LinkedIn. You can say that, I'm bragging today because I'm the first one who finished. What happened to all of you, rest of you? Just speed up a little bit, will you?
How would we know the first one?
The one who publishes first on LinkedIn is the first one.
Yeah. How do we add the note in? Because it's not working. I just set up my Miro account. So how do I go back to add my note?
Oh, right here.
Okay, so I just slide it over.
Yeah. Here.
Okay.
So just you can use a new one, or you can put your information just like everyone else has done. Yeah.
This is not.
Or you can put it in the chat, and I can put it on the sticky note if you want me to.
Okay, what was I doing wrong where when I tap this, I have to do it in a separate Miro board?
I
Like
don't
when
know.
Okay, I'll figure it out. I gotta play with this some more. Okay, I'll put it in the chat.
Sure. All right. So that's about it. I think, you can get some time back, enjoy the rest of your evening, day, whatever is left. And, hopefully I hear the good news before the morning or this weekend, whenever you take the test. Yeah, good luck to everyone.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Is there any practice questions that we can practice?
I would say stay away from practice questions because God only knows who these people are who have written these questions. They might probably know how to spell Scrum and they might say, oh yeah, and these are all the things. So don't get confused. Somebody said that they got so confused that they got all wrong answers because of that. But what we learned in the classroom is the right way of doing it. So at least for the sake of the exam, please make sure that you put those things the right way. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good luck. Good luck to everyone. I wish you the best of luck and let me know how I can help. Yeah, like I said, always looking for anything that, we can benefit and help each other out. Okay.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Imran.
Thank
Good to
you.
know everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raj.
I will never forget you guys.
Appreciate it. Nice meeting you all.
Hey, don't forget about me, guys. Follow me on LinkedIn.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
If you get a job, I get a job.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, send me a job.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Bye. Take care.
Thank you guys. Have a good one. It was nice being in class with you.
Take care.